Well, I'm just deciding what to do with this space. Since we moved in this property about 1 year and 4 months ago, this space has been a tricky one. Let me show you. So for instance, this is just how narrow this space is. It is really narrow. It is almost the size of a coffin. It's so narrow, but that isn't why I'm calling this the RIP decluttering method. What I've actually been equating it to is something similar to the Swedish death cleaning method, but perhaps an easier way of going about it. So for those of you who have been here for the last few weeks and longer, you'll know that I'm on a journey to super extreme minimalism, and it's because I just like to experience it for a moment in my life, although personally I think you become accustomed to it and it's difficult to ever go back. And we will be going away, travelling, maybe emigrating, so we want to do this. You know, everybody's different, everybody's lifestyle different. We want to experience having this super extreme home. Now, what I'm going to suggest in this week's video for the hallway space is when we get down to the last few items, similarly to Swedish death cleaning, which is where people will downsize, declutter anything that is really extra in their lives, so that, you know, unfortunately, or as sad as it may be for some people, that when they come to the end of their lives, their loved ones aren't forced to go through all this stuff for them. They've already done it. But people who do the Swedish death cleaning method also argue that it's a good way to live anyway. We don't have to wait till the end of our lives to do it. And what I'm proposing with the RIP cleaning, decluttering method is that where we sometimes don't know what to do with a space, we trial things and we let it rest in peace in our mind, but also where we put the things whilst we're deciding. For instance, those of you who were here for my huge decluttering that I did a few weeks back, where I got everything, it was 40 days, it was relentless, I added something every day, and I ended up with this huge pile that took up the whole of our bedroom. Now, whilst I do think that that is still a good, very different method to what I'm going to propose today, because we're forced, a little bit like the Kondo method, we're forced to see this huge amount of stuff, and in the end it becomes a nuisance to us, so much so that we want to get rid of it. In fact, by the last day, you know, the 40th day or the 20th day, however long you personally choose to do it for, you're so relieved to see that stuff go because it's in the way, that it is a great tool for decluttering. However, perhaps people could argue that because it's so much in your way because you've not stored it away or organised it, then it's sort of forcing your hand a little bit. So what I'm going to propose today in this rest in peace method is that when we're unsure about a space, we trial it. So although this space behind us is very small today, I'm going to move a few pieces that sometimes I wonder whether they're necessary, whether the place would look more peaceful without it. I'm going to put them somewhere else, hopefully, although that's almost impossible in our home, as out of the way as possible. So if you're somebody with a little storeroom, a little walk-in closet, which sometimes I do wish we had, you put it out of the way. Now you can choose however long you want that to be, a whole day, a whole week, a whole month, and really contemplate whether you've missed those things before you start deciding whether to put anything back. And when you do put the things back, you decide maybe one thing at a time, leaving each one thing that's added a little bit at a time. You're physically resting them in peace in their place, both when you take them away and both when you put them back, to create a space that is restful and allows you to be at peace. So that is why I'm calling it the RIP declutter method. And if at the end of this time you decide that none of the things want to be reintroduced, I'm getting cramp in my leg, want to be reintroduced into your space, then it will all be, you know, laid to peace. Either if you gift it, if you give it to charity, if you sell it, you won't own it anymore. So We only have a very few items in this hallway, but we're going to decide upon them and we're going to take them out to see what the space looks like without them. Now let me take my little good morning coffee cup out of the way and we'll get on with things. So first of all, we need to adjust you guys so you can see everything that's going on in our hallway. Let's make you as tall as you can go. In my hallway, the first port of call is our mirror. Can you all see? You have to put you partially in the living room so you can see. I'm obviously looking off camera so I can see the frame. So we have this mirror. The only thing that is really perhaps in the way in the mirror is I have this little cactus man. And whilst I did used to like it when we had a little bit more black things going on in this hallway, it's just one extra thing that I don't really think I need. And remember, we don't have to think too much about things when we're doing this decluttering method, because the thinking isn't going to arise in the moment that we're looking at it. We're just taking it. We're taking it all away to see what the space looks like without it, and then we're going to think about it, let it rest in our mind so we can rest in peace before we bring it back in. So I'm just going to pop him out of the way and we're going to do this for the few items that are here. Now, can you all see? So the next thing really in this hallway is, now remember back to the last few weeks I've said I'm trying to be an extreme minimalist, but I like to keep the odd little thing that is a bit aesthetic. Now I absolutely love real wood. I've gone a bit more down the bamboo route with some things just because it's lighter, but there's still the odd thing I like. But again, I don't really want to question that too much in this video. I just want to take it out to see whether I like it more without it. So this is our key bowl. It's a lovely piece of wood, but I wonder how much we necessarily need it in this area. Like, you know, we only put our keys in it, and although that's a great idea for not losing your keys, there are other methods you could do that are a bit visually less cluttered, I think, which I'll show you in a second. Would this be better used as a fruit bowl? Do I have to declutter it completely, or could I move it somewhere else where it's more useful? So again, just for now, we're taking it out of the way while we decide focusing on this space. Now, this little area of coat hook is where my partner usually hangs his immediate coat that he's taken off once he comes in. But we try to keep most of our coats behind the bedroom door, like I showed in last week's video, just so that it's visually less cluttered. It doesn't always, you know, happen because it's easier to just take your coat off as soon as you come in. But that's where we try to aim for. And moving round, we have our shoe cabinet. There is no other solution for our shoe cabinet. There's nowhere else to put it. That has to stay there. I don't mind there being one ledge. It sort of matches the mirror. And the reason we have so many mirrors is that this hallway is in complete darkness. Yes, a little bit like a coffin, which is rather ironically, you know, and coincidentally appropriate for this RIP decluttering method. But that is not the reason I'm calling it that. Obviously, I'm saying it's because we rest it in peace and allow it to simmer and cogitate in our brains for a little while until we're ready to reintroduce things back into the space, and if at all. So let's bring you all in the hallway. So as we come in here, there is really nothing in here. So then we have this little area. Now that's just the bathroom in there, for anybody that doesn't know. Can I get you all to stand flat? Because as you all know, this house is leaning, it's that old. So this is our immediate little organisation area that I believe that is functional and we really do sort of need, because we've got nowhere else to put anything. It has our intercom, and now we have two little key hooks where we do both just hang our keys. It's out of the way. I almost feel like it is less visually cluttered than the bowl, although I like the bowl. So sometimes it's a balance whether we're calling it clutter, whether we're calling it visual noise, or whether it is an aesthetic that brings comfort and a little bit of joy to our home. So I'm still balancing that idea, but remember, we're trying to just achieve what it does look like without. This, I believe, is also essential. Can you all see? It's just a little shelf with a little bamboo box, and that is really where my partner keeps his change, like his loose pocket change and his lighter and his tobacco. Yes, because he does smoke. A lot of people in England smoke. Sometimes I do wish it was a little bit more like America, in that I think like less Americans smoke than English people, but do you know that I'm the only person that I know that doesn't smoke? All my friends smoke. It's terrible. It's an epidemic all of its own. I don't know what's been going on, why everybody thinks it's okay to smoke, but they do. Anyway, so that is where he puts his tobacco and lighter and loose change when he comes in. It sort of needs to be there, otherwise it would all just be falling off that very small little shelf. And we have our hats here. My partner's hat, my one hat. That part all works. Now, one thing that is left, which I don't know if you all noticed when we were around the other way, but we have this little entrance rug. Now, when we first moved in, we had one like a hallway runner that went all the way down, and it looked nice, but then I started to wonder whether it did make it look a little bit more cluttered because it is in such a small area. Now, you probably know from my previous videos that I do like rugs, and because we rent, I think they help protect the landlord's carpets to a degree as well. So for now, I'm definitely leaving one in the living room, definitely leaving one in the bedroom, but this is one area where I've slowly decluttered the big hallway runner that we had that was matching that sort of jute look, but I'm thinking about getting rid of this one. So this may take a moment. I'm going to speed it up for you guys, but we're going to get it out from under the shoe cabinet, take it out, and then have a general look at the hallway from this perspective and as a walkthrough, and see if we think it looks a lot more decluttered. And then we will stew on it and see whether if what we want to introduce back into the space. Well guys, I don't know if you could all tell there on that speeded up segment, but that was a lot harder than it looked. Whew, I'm out of breath, and it's because we actually have the back of that cabinet attached slightly to the wall to obviously stop it tilting forward because it's sort of front heavy, and our floors are incredibly uneven. Whew, right, now let me quickly hoover up the mess that all that made, and we'll take a look. Right guys, does anybody else have to go around and pick up tiny little bits that the hoover won't pick up? I think the hoover may be on its way out, and if it is, I may very well get a robot hoover so I don't have to go around and do this little bit of picking up, and that would be much easier to store. Anyway, let's take a look at this. 1 second. So even just off camera, I'm sort of liking the look. I'm liking the look of no rug down there, because I think the reason it works particularly well in the hallway is we do have all grey carpets. We've got a grey mirror, we've got a grey cabinet, this lime wash mirror as well, it even has a little bit of a grey hue to it, and I think that makes a little bit more cohesion across the space. And even though the top of that cabinet sort of matched the colour of the jute rug, I don't really think it's essential. I'm going to show you from a point of view so we can have a look before we decide whether we want to put anything back in. But first of all, I noticed something. So on this mirror, I actually left this little thing. When we get fortune cookies occasionally, I like to, if they've been really nice, leave them. I like to leave them on the mirror as a little reminder. So I'll put that down there. And I also happened to see this, which is my partner's, and we used to have it on the plants, but I don't know whether some of you saw in last week's video, but we actually decided to get rid of a lot of our plants. So I took that off the top of the plant. It's like a little panda that I think he got in a cracker at Christmas, but he really likes pandas and it glows in the dark. So that was sitting on top of the mirror. So I'll just put that down there. Right, point of view. So let's do the full look into the hallway. from the end of the hallway the hats, keys, and the door. I don't think it can actually get much more minimal than that for what we need for functionality as well. Let's go back on the other camera. So just for a little bit of a change of scenery, we'll stand here as well. Now I don't think, it's even starting to sound like a bit echoey. Is that a good sign? So I don't think it can get much more minimal than this. Now, I wanted to do this video to just show you in the hallway how to perhaps approach the RIP decluttering method. It would probably be more useful as well in a more busy area like the kitchen, which we will continue in the next video. But this is, I thought, was a nice little starting point, not too overwhelming, and perhaps easy to establish how sometimes we don't need to add anything in, because that's right, I've decided that I actually like the clean space and surface. I like the clean surface, I'm thinking, of having nothing there. Now, because I want to film all this video today, I'm not going to just like leave it a few hours and come back, because I think to fully let it sink in, you're better off waiting perhaps a whole week. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave all this for a whole week. I'm more or less certain that the little cactus man can just go, because there is no black really in this hallway anymore, so it really could kind of like stood out. The really only thing, because I'm pretty certain about the rug as well, that it looks better without the rug in this space, the only thing is the bowl. I'm not sure what to do with the bowl, and when I'm not sure, I experiment with the bowl, move the bowl around a bit, like I did with the lavender last week, and I actually settled on having the lavender near my lamp in the bedroom. In fact, you know what, guys, let's show you. So I've settled on having the lamp in their corner and having the lavender there, and my little Buddha is just still there on the end of the shelf, but we've moved everything else completely. That is how I experimented last week, because I didn't really know what to do with the lavender when I mentioned in that video. I'm not sure, so I'm going to try moving things around, like letting things rest in a peaceful environment for a while, creating a peaceful environment for yourself to see how you feel. Now let's go back in here while we talk about this. So that is now what I'm doing for this whole week. I've set myself the 7 days to decide whether I really like that space with no rug, no bowl, no little cactus plant, and then I'll fully have decided, and I'll fully know by letting it ruminate but rest in my mind like this. And I think it's really achieved when we, rather than focusing on the area and staring and wondering, if we just let it rest as it is, we go out of the room, we get on with the rest of our week, and as we enter the room each time, having forgotten what we've done, it's that initial shock of knowing whether you like it or not, and seeing it. It'll help you begin to realise whether you really like it, or whether you want to put an item back, or 2 items back, or all the items back. But that's a good way of really testing how much you want to declutter, which is why I'm calling it the RIP declutter method. And it may very well be that at the end of next week, this is what happens. But I decide, it may very well be that next week I decide to get rid of all these things. So that's the video this week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!